no question, but great. I can I will leave it at that so we can if you need any more questions. So yes, Mary, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. That was a great presentation, Ramajan. Thank you. And the question that I always ask is, as you mentioned, there's a lot of information, and converting that information into actionable items is always the challenge for me, at least. So, what's your recommendation as far as obviously, ton of information, as you mentioned, and analyzing macroeconomic factors plus company fundamentals and geopolitical events all contribute to basically how these markets react and move. So, as you mentioned, with a long-term perspective, that works really well. What's your recommendation for short term? So, for instance, swing traders or retail traders, that kind of a approach.
Absolutely, Mary, the biggest thing is again having the right tools because as I mentioned, we have bombarded with so much. So it having that discipline and the structure. So if I know, I go back to game of chess, I go back to like Sudoku. If I know there is this step by step that if I took it, I will have that edge, that's a great start. So what I like to do is
Mhm.
basically first I want to have total understanding, at least something that it gives me, for instance, you mentioned about macroeconomy. How, what do these mean? What is trade deficit? How do central banks affect, different asset classes, the decision making? We talk about the dollar, we talk about gold, we talk about uh, fixed income interest rates. They're so crucial. If we understood those foundations, then it's a lot easier to connect the dots. The problem as a human being, we're programmed and we get bored. We don't have that delayed gratification. So we like to just learn a little bit here, learn a little bit there, jump from here to there. So that's why I also talked about the self education, understanding who we are, basically what are characteristics. So we don't mix basically, if I am very analytical and I don't like to make quick decisions, well, then I shouldn't do a lot of futures market, for instance. I would be
Mhm.
great in finding the value and fundamental valuation of stocks. I would be good investor. So that understanding, and that's what my purpose was for this the workshops was basically give those fundamental understandings of how the things work and then introduce again it's like a really capsulized introduce okay what is options, but the good news is not only understand the options because there are thousands of introductory beginners options, what
Mhm.
tools that I personally use which has worked for me for the last 35-40 years. So I just shared that, but it's not just because I tell you, it's because these are the reasons. Because I've done this, that's the reason. I like the technical analysis, for instance, there's 300 different types of analytical tools for technical analysis. Well, if they it will take me years to go through them. And then by the time there's a lot of contradiction. So for me, I only use, and I know some of our members are here, I use 7 or 8 of them
Mhm.
religiously. They're more mathematically oriented, so there's a reasoning for behind the madness, and that's what I do, and it has worked for me. So it is something that at least in different markets that I've been involved. I went through 1987 crash, for instance, so I remember that
Mhm.
vividly. as well as we look at the long-term capital, what happened in Asian contagion, the currencies in 1997, 1998, long-term capital, internet bubble, financial crisis, COVID. I've gone through all that. So
Mhm.
basically, different cycles, I can tell you what it works. So there's no one answer. Uh,
Mhm.
but Warren Buffett philosophy, which is wonderful, one of the most successful investors, well, it's wonderful what he has done. He talks about the how he started with Ben Graham, but someone like Warren Buffett, when he has $100 billion in cash, can just go and buy the company. As investors, really sometimes cannot apply that mentality and say yes. Warren Buffett, when he started, I just use that as an example. His teacher was Ben Graham, and Ben Graham was looking at, obviously, he came with the Graham rules, with the PE ratios and growth and all that. And he was talking about diversification. Yet, Ben Graham was a partner with Geico, and his biggest holding was Geico, and that so talking about diversification, two
Mhm.
or three of his winners made all his money. So sometimes the action that we take contradicts with what we're teaching. So
Mhm.
the timing is important. So that's my goal, is to give everyone a fundamental understanding of how everything works. Commodities are wonderful. I think every student should understand commodities. And based on that, you see how easily uh, all of a sudden economics makes sense. Because, by the way, I never was a good economics student, but there's just so many ideas about that. But the fundamental economics, it's amazing how it works in commodities. So basically, the idea is there's a lot of opportunities out there. I will start with understanding each tool and vehicle. Then you know who you are and you decide what you want to do. I love options. Options are fantastic tools that allow you to have leverage, but also they allow you to have different uh, uh, combination of strategies that probability wise are,
Mhm.
are more rewarding than even just pure stock holding. So anyway, I don't know if that's helpful, but I would say I would do some
Mhm.
fundamental, as I said, understanding of the whole thing, and then
Mhm.
decide, well, I want to go further. Let's say I love futures market. Well, who are the most successful futures traders? At least I go with open mind, understanding, rather than just blindly follow someone. And that's the
Mhm.
problem with a lot of these, again, like social media influencers. Um,
Mhm.
they are good for one market, but not everything. So, yeah.
Mhm.
And I appreciate the question,
Sure, sure. Thank you.
of course. Any other question, comments? I hope it was helpful. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it was certainly helpful. I don't want to hog the entire time. Just wanted to make an additional comment on what we just talked about, and that is, I think for someone to really analyze the market, and that means, macroeconomic factors, potential technical analysis, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I think Warren Buffett in particular, he is known to claim that, nobody can really beat S&P 500. So if you really want to do anything, just put your money in S&P 500. However, I think investor of the year, more of a trader, I think, I was reading about it, and he had a performance of about 15% on the portfolio. And obviously, $100 billion of asset, and returning 15% on that is quite remarkable. When you get to that scale, I think it becomes really challenging to do anything without any kind of, I would say, automation, or I would say, some kind of a platform that will assist you in analyzing the market and making decisions. So perhaps an approach where you would um, take, for instance, all these, let's call it information, and then turn it into knowledge through some kind of an software would be very helpful. Because I think if you are operating as a individual investor, obviously understanding the markets and different sectors would be helpful to determine what are good opportunities. But when it comes to larger scale, I think it's going to be challenging to do that without any kind of software. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Well, one thing about you mentioned about um, beating the markets, Jim Simmons, late
Mhm.
Jim Simmons, the founder of Renaissance Funds, great mathematician. It was like, that uh, hidden secret he had. He was averaging 30% a year.
Mhm.
And I mean, they think just the minimum. I mean, there's a lot of times that he did even 70%. So there is definitely that edge. He was a mathematical genius. Um,
Mhm.
and I think by year 2029, we will have minimum of 95% of all the trades will be algorithmic and all program trading, really. So the machines. And so my objective here is more of an individual. I agree with you when it comes to larger size, but the thing is, once we do it individually, I just showed you the technical side of things. Well, basically,
Mhm.
there's this machines are programmed to follow what we are talking about. So I'm following them in a way. So let's say
Mhm.
you develop the system, I thought, and you say, well, if we hit the 200-day moving, this is going to happen. So our job is not front running you, is our job is to see, well, what factors you're paying attention. So if I know that, if I have the techniques, then as a small investors, oh, that will be my edge. So my thing is not like I'm such a genius that I can come up with my own thing and just make amazing profits. My thing is, what are the geniuses that would program this thinking of? And I would follow that. And that comes from, again, different tools, the volume, the activity.
Mhm.
So that's what my idea, again, this workshop is allowing you to have that confidence of understanding things. So I
Mhm.
appreciate your input. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sure.
Anyone else? I thank you for staying with us. So
This is gonna be my first time really, looking into trading. I was
yes.
wondering if you have any books that you might recommend, just to like maybe as like an intro to, what you would be discussing in this 10-week program.
Oh, excellent. So yes, actually, Richard, I was at Chapman a couple of weeks ago, so I did. I will send you a copy of um, some of my favorite books when it comes to investing and trading, um, and also some of the websites, resources, free ones that will be helpful. And I also part of, I didn't send that, but some of my favorite soccer finance books if you're into soccer. But anyway, but yes, I do have a list. Uh, but also, I think if you chose to come to the workshop, it assumes like we started from scratch. You don't have, but then within as I mentioned, within 10 weeks, the idea is you actually have the tools that there will be a bonus. So depending on how we do that 11th, we just kind of capitalize everything and come up with some of my favorite strategies. So you can take that ball and run with it. So, but I will share, Richard, and I know we will be meeting soon in the next couple of weeks. So I will share some of my favorite books that I've enjoyed over the years. So definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time out of today to share all this information with us. That was good.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you.
Anyone else? Any other comments? I really appreciate you being here on Saturday and And a few of our members were had to leave because of the time. So I'll well, if there's no other question, I'm very grateful you were part of this. We'll stay in touch. I will be doing my market analysis tonight, and we'll follow from that. So thank you again. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Enjoy it, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ramajan. It was great.
Thank you,
And
Meredith.
thank you for sharing your knowledge and information with us.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Bye for now.